Hello and welcome to this third session, I guess, of my Not Your Average Bible Study. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and today is December 1st, 2024. It is just past 1800, 6 p.m. my time, and I almost didn't have time for this today. But here I am, anyways, making the time for it. So wonderfully, it's miraculous the way things just work out sometimes. So happy Sacred Sunday. Thank you for joining me and listening. This, like I said, is the third episode. And I'm going to be getting into Matthew chapter 4. If you're interested in hearing before, of course, the links will be below to the other episodes. But I'm going to just try my hardest to jump right into the readings and let them speak for themselves and see what happens, instead of getting wrangled and giving personal updates and backtracking on what the last episode was about, which, in full transparency, I just spent about 10 minutes chasing my tail with in a recording I decided to delete before this one. So, in the chance of running redundant in my own self, I am choosing to just get down to the point and do what we come to do here. And I'm sure what you've clicked on to listen to, of course, is the reading. And I will be offering my own metaphysical, unique approach to interpreting it. And of course, I hope that's your thing. If it's not, feel free to click away or go listen to something more traditional. But disclaimer, I am not a traditional standing Christian. I don't wear the label. I see myself as a part Christian, if that's allowed. But this is a brand new reading for me as well, and I'm not trying to say I know anything. I'm actually reading this as a curious student, seeking more truth through it, seeking to find my own resonances, what I hear of my own personal truths through it, singing back to me, and speak on those. And that's really been my guidance, which I feel I've been enlightened with by a partnership through connectivity to Jesus and to Christ consciousness in my own way, and to the Creator and God. And so I do feel I come from an honest place of connectivity and of honest service here. So again, thank you for listening. That's my personal spiritual disclaimer here before we get started. If anybody is new, just in case. But welcome and thank you. Especially if you're not new, thank you for your returning audience. I appreciate your energy and your heart and your listening ears so much. So let's dive in to where we left off with, and that's with the appearance of Jesus, right? Or the meeting, of Jesus and John the Baptist. The much delayed and anticipated final meeting. It's interesting too, as I say, I'm not going to backtrack, but this is sort of a segue and contingency of sort of understanding the walk up from my humble opinion and from my little base of foundational sort of timeline understanding that I have gathered as this point, right? My humble crumbs that I bring to the table. I already sort of mentioned a bit about the possible Essene Druid connections and the old world ancient teachings of organic magic-like truth of the Druids, or the mystic hermit type of archetype that John the Baptist represents and is and was a figurehead of in his own right. And then we have Jesus as sort of the hero's journey figure. He's the main character of the story, of course, and that journey, his journey here. But he's out on his journey as the hero follows the hero's journey. And he's got to, of course, meet these mentor-like, guru-esque sort of separate teachers out there, right, who are living in that wild, segregated life. But he's also the New Age version of it. And much as those threshold teachers understand the cyclic evolution that all grows through, and we all go through, right, we see it for the truth that it is. And it's the same old song and dance. And so we know when the seasons are changing. We read those great truths and organic shifts and approaches and the fundamental positive fluid changes that happen. And we know other times are coming, and our season is over, so to speak, or their season is over. John the Baptist felt this way. I tend to feel this way in my space holding with my sons and with the new generations to come, to follow the way that the world is changing in the here and now space that we're in, of this apocalyptic end of days that we are faced with here in 2024. We've already been living through in the last couple decades. Many of us have been sort of those figureheads out in the wilderness, preaching the end is coming, the end is near, and we know there's change approaching. And so here we are, and much as here we are, the second coming, as I've already spoke of, is here. And I'm not going to get too much into that either. I've already talked about a little bit about that on other segments in my channels, other offerings, so link things like that below if you are interested and haven't heard me yet rambling about those, deconstructing distortion and the like. I'll add that, but setting the scene here is much like we're in the scene now. And but fast forward a bit, because we have already the revelation of the recognition of Jesus' figurehead being here, and now him finally meeting and being anointed sort of by John the Baptist. And so I'm going to move into chapter 4 now. I almost want to backtrack and talk about back in 3 in their initial meeting, but we've already sort of glazed over that. And I could talk about it forever. In the metaphorical sense, in the historical sense, in fictional and nonfiction, and just it would all be ponderings and graspings at straws, because I have nothing of solidity to really offer as my I'm a mere student here, which is why I say it's my offerings. I don't want to backtrack in my offerings really. Go through this in my first readings and offer out my first insights. That's the point of this Not Your Average Bible Study, and my initiative behind it is my first sort of glaze through. So not to say that it won't be dove into better later, or that it's not meant to be, or that not worthy of. Totally think it is, and will be most certainly again returning. But for this first readings, I think I'll just keep it moving into new content as I go on these sessions. But if you didn't hear that, yes, I did talk a bit about that already. Because here we have coming to say that the time's kind of fast forwarded, right? And chapter 4 starts with, "Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil." And here I'm so reminded of Siddhartha and that great story, the Buddha, and many other heroes' journeys, of course, like I've already sort of tied into. And it's interesting that this version and this text just kind of glazes over what that even means, and sort of like fill in your blank as to what these kind of things mean. Here I fill in my blanks, and as I've read sort of other gospels and stories, gospel of peace even, I have my own kind of fillers into what this spiritual ritual or rite or rites may have been like or looked like, and that it was a well-practiced ancient tradition and seekings already that Jesus was a student of. And it's not to take anything away from him either, or say that he didn't put his own tailor fittings onto it or come to his own greater enlightenments through it. But he's also known for saying, you will do greater works than I. And he was teaching his disciples these exact rituals and routines to live this way. And in fact, it goes on here in just the few chapters of Matthew that I've read ahead a little bit, that it's routines and processes of detox and healthy living and cleansing and clearing of parasites, of toxicity, of keeping the light body and the energetic body and the physical body attuned and healthy and well. He's taught his disciples how to live this way and how to heal others through it. And for that reason in itself, I see it as a simplistic, generic teaching that he offers humbly. And I don't mean to take that away from the greatness of him or to cause ruffle feathers with people who see him as something quite spectacular and unhuman and meant to be this idol that is on a pillar, unable to be sort of made into realness, Anyways, with that saying, he has reached certain in his own enlightenments in these through these rites and practices, and this is sort of a log of it, and this is him coming out of that and returning from that here in the timeline, and it's sort of what's the current events for his moments up to meeting John the Baptist. This is sort of a reminder of the telling of the tale as to where he's at in the story right now and what it was like, right? And then he was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward an hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, Thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. And first and foremost here, if we think about a generic simplistic teachings about going and fasting in the woods, going away from civilization, away from your cities and towns, busy areas full of plentiness and happenings, and going out into meditation, peaceful prayer, quietness in itself, that's a great working. But to also start incorporating fasting and this real abstination of all taking in, of all sustenance, of all sorts of external input into yourself is a huge alchemy, spiritual passing. And it's a tradition across many cultures and times and ages. And that's because it's proof in the pudding. It's the truth. It works. And it creates something amazing inside of us. Speaking, in now present moment of myself, I'm in, day 2 of my threshold fast that I'm doing between each month. The end of one month into the start of the next month, I'm doing sort of a 72, give or take a few hour fast. This is my second one that I have begun this sort of ritual that also incorporates a sun-up, sundown fast every Sunday, which I'm loving and have loved these last 2 months that I've incorporated into my Sacred Sunday routine. And that's really kicking up a notch my Sacred Sunday, which I started 2 years ago, and that has just totally changed my life in such amazing ways. It's these small steps towards incorporating more Christ consciousness in my life, incorporating more awareness of the co-creation and partnership that I have with God the Creator, with Jesus, with the Father, with my higher self. And it's the proof's in the pudding, much like the work of fasting is. When you do it, there's no denying it. There's a great power in it. And it's something that takes a great commitment as well. It's amazing to work towards. And thinking of that in my own self here with just doing these, I've been an intermittent faster for many, many years, for my whole life, before I even knew it was a thing. That was my natural homeostasis, a pattern of eating, really. This sort of only, never eat in the morning, eat towards 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then usually always have a dinner, but have dinner like at 6 or 6:30, between 5 and 6 dinner, and then maybe have a little snack sometimes, but always be going to bed as well, later. Except also many times I worked later in the night, and I worked night shift, and so sometimes I would get out and eat later in the nighttime. But still, I was always waking up and never eating until, much later in the day. So it just happened to work for me habitually. And then after I've learned about the benefits of it, intermittent fasting, and that's become more of a set routine to me, but the practicing of other types of fasting has really, over the last 7 to 10 years, become wonderful. And in my last 4 years, and in the last 4 and then 2 years, it's been kicking up exponentially. And also the times and the lengths and the opportunities I'm doing these fastings has also kicked up, and I've been doing more of them at different times for different reasons. But this particular Christ consciousness oriented ones have been really momentous. I'm very much enjoying these ones, and coming up to Christmas and really incorporating more biblical ideas to do with Christ and Christ consciousness, and the terminology around it, the more traditional language and routines. I'm learning more about them and incorporating more about them. And here we are approaching Christmas too. It's just so synchronistic, so divinely perfect in the unfoldings on my own journey, where I'm the heroes. I'm the walk of that Jesus' life got to choose, but I get to play it out in my own fashion, which is much different. Not such an extreme portrayal of all the pivotal points in such an external ways that he lived out the points, but each of us get to live out our own pivotal alchemy ascension points, the dark night of the souls, and the revelations, and the incorporations, and the integration, and the growth, and the heights, and the peaks, and then the flying away, and the rebirths that come with it, and the renewal, and then something new, right? And then all of a sudden we're into something, another dark night of the soul, because we've incorporated in something and found something we haven't yet discovered. And like Jesus approaches here in his 40-day fast, right? He's met with the devil here, where we're brought in with the opposition to Jesus' heightened light. It's the devil figure. It's the temptation. It's the truth of duality, and it's this, whether it's a filter placed upon us or it's something set against us. Fill in your choices, and I can feel either or, and sometimes, both. Who knows? Somewhere in between. Sometimes. It's interesting in my own practice, in my own self, the reflections of the devil within, or the shadows, the Satan cornered feelings and likenesses that come out when you choose to acknowledge them as what they are, when you're not scared to say that those are held within you, or that you are up against that. It's an interesting standpoint to take. Sometimes people can get a bit fanatical about it, and I know there's a lot of tradition that takes it very in lots of different directions. And I'm just gauging different directions of understanding what that even means, but I tend to like to hold a introspective point of view, to know that things that are displayed externally are shadows and pieces of that which I have internally. And that when things internally are coming up or out of me that are the opposite of what I would like to be, sometimes that in itself is teaching moment, it's an understanding, and it is a true reflection of something I'm experiencing. So what can you do except acknowledge it as what it is and accept it, and then see what it's needed from it to help heal. That's the practice I'm learning and teaching for myself. And that's one because, I'm not a miraculous healer, light worker like Jesus Christ, to where you could send out that understanding and it's such a blast of light or a ray of healing or energy frequency. Who knows as to what the miracles are caused by or whatever, to create that instantaneous gift of healing that he was so well known for, but that many others have and are known for. And like I said before, not to take away from anything of him, but there's other teachers and many other mystics out there who've been known for doing miracles as well. And they've all said the same thing, sort of, this is where we're headed. This is that we're trying to showcase a 100th monkey aspect of we can all have this within us, and we can all get there if we choose the path to embody it. Getting a little off track there, but not really. The path in itself, right, is difficult. And as we see here in this chapter, we have some examples of what the plight was like. And I really love these external examples showcased here between Jesus and the devil, and how it's written here in this old tiny language too. There's a lot to get from it, and then so much left to be interpreted, or like I said, kind of left for you to fill in the blanks. When I read it, I've already have quite a few things highlighted, but it's something I had to chew on and read through and come back to, so interested to reading through here again. I think I'll read through a bit of most of the chapter 4 here, and we'll see, then I'll see. As I already noted, right, the tempter came to him. He said, "If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made of bread." But he answered and said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God." And here I'm thinking of that. I'm not sure if you've heard it or not, but I've heard it and I love it. The way of Yahweh and the ancient spelling of it, and how the pronunciation sounded a bit like Yahweh. It has no vowels in it, and it really wasn't with this A sounding Yahweh. It was more of without that A sound in it, and it almost sounds like the breath, like that. And it reminded me of the other teaching I heard of, I think it was in Autobiography of a Yogi, and it was the so hum, and the sound of the breath that it makes with the inhale and the exhale, out breath. That sounds like so hum. And that was a mantra of my first awakening days so many years ago, when I started practicing meditation, and I really loved that so hum, and I would hear it on every breath, the hum being the out breath and the so being the in breath, and that is the word I am, or the phrase that means I am. And in fact, God means I am, does it not? Yahweh is the I am. the eye. And so yeah, that's my initial sort of reading, and sort of wow, sort of I get these icebreaker meltings of happenings, these unlockings of deeper meaning, or sort of like linking together when maybe when you see stars in the sky, you don't know they're a constellation, but then you see the picture drawn of the constellation they make, and next time you see it in the stars, it's like you could see it there. It's a bit like that sometimes when I read these. And when I read that, and what a wise answer, and the deep knowings in Jesus to answer him in that fashion, and sort of this curious, riddleistic, really fun, punny, witty way back at the devil inside him, or the actual figurehead of the real devil, external Lucifer, perhaps it is a figure. To challenge it in that way is so fun. It is such of the Creator and the Great Father to go with it and enlighten it, to make it lighter, right? To try to, and I know just from fasting throughout a couple of days, and even sometimes sun up to sundown days, being tempted by food at those times is hard work in itself. And to do it with a lightheartedness, and to be able to, and Jesus teaches us all the time about not going into fasting with a negative mindset, not to be cursing yourself while you're doing it. That in itself is hard work and deep teachings. But to go through 40 days and to be at that amazing strength point of wise clarity, to be able to not even just turn away the temptation of it, or to acknowledge it and keep it moving through that notion that, yeah, actually I could just eat. I could just make it a bread. It is, that easy. It's amazing for him to say and remember and sort of quote the truth. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth. And kind of saying, out of the mouth of God, but as we are the Son, he is the Son of God, and he is teaching that we are all children of God, and that we are made in his likeness, and we are gods ourselves, right? It's out of our mouth. Breath, if we are still breathing and you're alive, you're not alive with bread alone. Something else is keeping you alive. And look, I have sustained, I have stopped from all of that, and yet I still live. It's a truth. And that in itself is sort of the great promise and truth, that it isn't just eating, it isn't just food and bread and sustenance and nourishment that keep us alive, that we aren't just made to live and eat. It's not just live to eat, we eat to live, eat to keep alive, eat for nourishment and sustaining in the ways that we need to, and that's yet to be uncovered and figured out. That is a rat's nest all in itself. As to what that means there, I won't get onto that topic right now, but to have him say that, and to know that great truth, and to live it, and to speak that out in that moment, is amazing power in that. And sort of test one, right? Phase number one, okay, be tempted by food right in front of you, and can you come back at it with grace and honor like you teach? Can you walk the walk that you speak, the talk of? Right? And he does. And so we get into the next phase, right? Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on the pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou beest the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Right? Basically saying, if you choose to harm yourself, you believe God's angels are going to save you, don't you? Isn't that what you treat? So let's see about this one that you teach and preach. Can you live this truth as well? Would you cast yourself down off here and prove that right now, please. Right? Do some death-defying stunt here and force God, infringe upon positive. Can we get you to do some negative infringement here? Attempt to infringe upon God and ask for him to demand miracles out of you. Things that are outside of Jesus' own realm of miracles that he's already well given to perform, right? That's already, it's him taking into his own hands his own life now, him causing self-harm against himself that he's being tempted with against. Will you perform negative service in this sacrificing negative way? Because you've been told that, oh, you would be saved if that happened, right? But there again, he's twisting words, because it's not self-inflicted harm that you'll be saved from. No, it's accidents you're saved from. It's that opportunistic happenstance that he could slip and fall some kind of way that wasn't caused by his own intuitive causation. He didn't intend that to happen. This is the thing of positive service and free-flowing positivity, truth, and light and love, right? That's a promise of God that you're protected, and that your time will come when it's meant to come, and that it won't be any other time. And that if you are hurt or something does happen, that it's for a great purpose, and it's done with divine foresight and knowledge of God. So if, he's the devil here is sort of trying to overstep God's boundaries and his partnership with Jesus and the Father, and to force him to put himself in jeopardy to make him basically show that his Father would save him, right? It's what a tangled web we weave, right? But I love that there in the scripture. And I love the reply. Jesus is plain and blank with his reply. And he's such a master of service, teaching positive and negative service, and sticking with the truth of alignments, Jesus said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Right? And by tempt here, I see negative infringements, right? It's turning a negative alignment. It's a debt-based encouragement of activity. It's setting out strings attached. It's setting a trap, a snare, a temptation out there. As what is that for? As to hope to catch another into grabbing it. For what reason? Well, you have a reason, of course, or else it wouldn't be set out there, right? And that's not something that we should be doing. God doesn't want us to be negatively infringing, causing debt-based alliances, seeking slavery. He set us to be free. And of course, so Jesus, I love that reply, and again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all of the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, right? And saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. So now he's kind of taken it up a stake here, and he's realized his position in standing, and he also wants Jesus to sort of realize his position in standing of this worldly place, and that all of the worldly, materialistic things of it are under his command, basically, which is in itself kind of, and that is a rabbit hole in general to get into in itself. I'm thinking of all of the Holly Weird stuff, and all of the ancient rites, and all of the satanic kind of things, and all the sacrificial hijackings that go along with all the different traditions and cultures over time. And what it is to worship another, really, is strange in itself. And Jesus' teachings are much different because they are not that worshiping of an idol or worshiping of a incarnated physical form of any type. And he says many times the Father in heaven, right? Making it very clear that in heaven, and heaven is a separate, different place, right? But it's, speaks again volumes and goes to show to be tempted with the money materialistic power of the life, see what it is to sort of be alive here in this incarnation, and to know that the great expanse and gravity it is to be living one single lifetime. Especially, if you've been going through these great spiritual rites, you're a master, alchemist, you understand the before and after, and what a time life is, and what your timeline is here, and your lifetime. And in fact, it's going to be cut short, and you're here to make a certain impression, and to be sort of the savior of mankind, and play this sort of role, to be a figurehead leader in, as we say and see he does. That many have fallen victim of that plight, and have signed the contracts, and have bowed down to worship the ideological version, the inverted figurehead that is that great world leader, or whatever it is, of the devil, and But as I said, I'm not going to get I've already passed the time that I wanted to be doing this session on, and so perhaps I'll talk about that another time. Let's not get worked upon my interpretation or replies, but get back to Jesus's, right? So I'm going into 10 now. Then saith Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. And again, so reminded of the journey of the Buddha, and the sort of the spirits coming to him to tempt him, and him making through it. And of course, their own version of that, or his own version of that, but this is so similar. And it's almost, like I said before, it leaves sort of a lot for you to interpret it into your own, a lot of spaces to fill as to what exactly that means, what could be locked inside there. But I love how simplistic, again, how kind of cut and dry his responses are. And it really can't be that simple when we remember about, what we're doing here with service alignments. And that if we choose to serve God, Source, the Great Other, at all times in a positive alignment, well, then we could never choose a segregated service of a single entity that doesn't reflect the whole and doesn't reflect God, and wants to put itself on a pivotal point somewhere in an in-between space before God actually returns, or try to outshine God in some kind of way. As we know, of course, is the point of the devil and Satan and all of that, right? And he's already said that. It's just he wants Jesus to bow down and worship him. And I love how it sort of sums it up really quick. He sort of banishes him, and the angels come down, and that's it. But a lot of the things that we work up ourselves to, as soon as we have these cut and dry enlightenments on them, they really do dissipate and go away after. And then it is almost like your higher self, spirit, God, shines on you with a great blessing because you see it for what it was and you gained strength through getting through it. And it's a great reward. It's amazing. And it goes on to say, now when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee. So now again, we sort of fast forwarded through this time. So perhaps it's sort of implying maybe that this is taking place during that time. I don't really know. But, and it goes on to say, in leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the seacoast, and the borders of Zabulon and Nephilim. Sorry, literally they have phonetics typed out here as well in my version, so I'm literally trying to read ancient places that I'm not familiar with in phonetic typing, so bear with me. I'm so sorry. That it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the land of Zabulon and in the land of Nephilim, by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles, the people which sat in darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. From that time Jesus began to preach and say, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And I'll go into a little bit more of the chapter 4 in our next session because I'm past due time here, and I hate to get these into too long of a time. And I just wanted to go a little bit into what is said here. I really love how it sort of gives a showcase of what's happening, and then some of the sort of external confirmation that the prophets have said that that would be happening at that place at that time, to showcase not only the work that's being done in the present moment during, this timeline, present moment of Matthew here, but also to sort of show where it sits within the whole timeline of Jesus's life, and then of the cycles, and that he's a marker of, that the prophets have spoke of already, sort of these synchronicity reminders, so to speak, these sort of divine pivotal playing steps that have been met, along the way. I'm starting to understand it a little bit more deeply. And get a feel for the kind of walk up to meeting Jesus that the stories are of the Gospels and all the disciples, and where they kind of were at their life, or what kind of role Jesus played in their life, and to see the other characters kind of coming in from different versions, and just having like spot entrances, like John the Baptist just has these quick appearances here, and he's in jail, and I kind of love it. And I love how Jesus is portrayed as this sort of like on the run outlier, sort of on the fringe guy. It's amazing, the sort of be following the prophecy along the timeline, which I guess is what the whole New Testament is for, right? Not saying anything really new there, kind of redundant in my ending here, but thank you for spending 45 minutes with me listening to the first half of chapter 4, and some of my feedback and my own personal incorporations in the teaching, and some ideas on fasting and all that. I might be talking a little bit more into that in side segments and other things on my channel, so if you'd like to hear my personal fasting journeys or my enlightening moments and other sort of more personal vloggy discussions, you can check on my YouTube channel or BitChute for that in the coming days and weeks. But thank you for giving me your ears today and listening. I appreciate your audience so much. Have a beautiful Sunday, even if it's not Sunday. I'm getting to post this late in the day, so it might not even be Sunday when you're watching this. But thank you for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I will see you next time.